let's start with maybe something that's kind of fresh in our minds, coming off of a weekend of domestic club play. FA Women's Super League had a number of games that were canceled due to a frozen pitch. So just not safe conditions to be playing in. We saw Brighton and Arsenal get canceled. Chelsea and Liverpool get canceled. Brighton and Arsenal's a pitch at Broadfield Stadium. They took a look. You always take a look at the pitch before you kind of take it whenever there's those type of kind of wintry conditions. But they said, hey, this after an inspection in the afternoon, like we're going to have a new date and a new kickoff time, and there will be relevant ticket information announced. Chelsea and Liverpool was not as smooth though. We saw how this game they attempted to play this game, and I'm a little I guess the word is surprised. I don't want to full on be like I'm disappointed, but I am. I'm like, how did you like to, you typically go through a pitch inspection before kicking the ball, and yet even with that, even with the inspection, it's saying that it was unplayable, you still try to take a run out. It's tough for me to really wrap my head around.
I agree. I mean, the fact that not one, not two, but there ended up being 3 games postponed this past weekend in the Women's Super League. And I think the one that's maybe upsetting and a little bit infuriating the most is the Chelsea versus Liverpool game, because it was deemed unplayable. So then they were like, okay, we'll push back to 2:00 in the afternoon when the sun has been shining a little bit. We'll see if it thaws the ground and heats up the pitch a little bit. They end up having kickoff at 12:30, and they end up then stopping the game 5 minutes, 6 minutes into the match. They said match abandoned. We're going to postpone this. It was suspended to be resumed at another point. And both managers were upset about this in their media, talking about it. Emma Hayes, for Chelsea's manager, saying that it's about time we take this game seriously, whether it's managers not being the ones to decide, but FAs and officials, or that they shouldn't have even started after the match was deemed unplayable, that they need better facilities for women's domestic football, that they need to work on heating the pitch, right? That's the technology that we have. Like, why aren't they doing that? And should these games even be played in January? That was a conversation as well swirling around this, because between Brighton and Arsenal, Chelsea and Liverpool, and then Tottenham and Leicester City, they were all postponed due to a frozen pitch. And yes, for Brighton, Arsenal, and Tottenham and Leicester, they were postponed before the games actually started. But to play 5 minutes and then be like, oh yeah, it's still frozen. Like, why couldn't you have figured that out before kickoff? I don't understand that by any means. It's not fair to the players. It's not fair to the managers to have them be the ones making those decisions. It should be decided upon before the fact at that point. But because of this and everything that kind of happened, and the fans coming out to these games and not being able to watch anything happen, I know some of the players took to social media saying, hey, we're really sorry to all the fans that traveled, that bought tickets, that found their way to the stadium in order to watch this game. They end up seeing 5 minutes, and then they all have to go home when they knew a couple hours before 9:30, before kickoff at 12:30, that the pitch was unplayable. That's frustrating to me as someone watching this and talking about it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I mean, I think we're both in the same boat here in terms of like reaction or thoughts to something like this. I mean, you're talking multiple games, so the weather at this point affecting all the matches and all the pitches and essentially all the players. It brought back like some weird like flashbacks for me too. I remember being out in Bridgeview, having to cover, I believe it was a game between the Red Stars and the Reign. And there was a similar constant back and forth about possibly starting a pitch. And it was similar conditions. It was not just frozen, but really, really icy. And there was like still some downpouring of like really dangerous kind of sleet. and you had players try to attempt to like have a warm up, and then there was conversations between officials, and at the time Brooke Elby was president of the Players Association, and it really sort of took a collaborative effort from players, unfortunately, to push the decision to postpone the game. And I remember being like, that's really unfortunate that it has to sort of like really be motivating factors by the team. And I'm thankful to hear a coach like Emma Hayes kind of, go into these, brief media rounds around the news about the postponement, and say what she said, because she's not wrong. I agree with those as well, but sort of saying like, this is not this is not acceptable. You have to make that decision. Managers should not be the ones, and player, like, that's when I saw that quote, it immediately took me back to that moment, because I'm like, there are certain people who are supposed to make that decision, and then there are certain people who should not. Like the players at this point, their job needs to be to show up and play the game. That is the job of a player.
Not determine if the elements allow them to do their job or not. That's got to be on someone else.
The managers need to provide the game plan. They need to manage the game and not have to worry about
and the player's mindset needs to be, we're playing no matter what. If feels like we're running on concrete, if the ball doesn't bounce because it's frozen, they have to deal with those things and continue to play. That it can't be on the players or the managers to decide if it's too cold or not, if the field is too frozen.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some updates in terms of what those next dates look like, and hopefully the ticketing gets sorted out for those who are in attendance to try to watch a game, and maybe there will be an update, and maybe we'll get a chance to chat about that update as well. Of course, we want to shout out Liga MX Femenil, a very, very cool new partnership between Tigres Femenil and Bayern Munich. Was very cool to see this get announced, how alongside really a lot of different type of partnerships that we're witnessing. It sort of feels like these are becoming a little bit more and more common. We're looking at these very kind of unique situations where there are two international clubs and they sort of merge together to try to embark on a partnership, whether that's going to include something like shared resources or branding plans, or in this case, a really, really cool competition. And we got to see, again, got to shout out Tigres, because they're really, really great about trying to make their games accessible. And a lot of times you get to catch a lot of their games specifically like on a Facebook watch. And they defeated Bayern 1-0, great goal in 20th minute by Lisbeth Ovalle. And really cool way to sort of just continue, just to see Tigres continue not only their constant success, but their new year in 2023.
I agree. And this partnership announced in December, so just about a month ago, December 2022. And the whole purpose of it, right, to grow the game, because Tigres, or excuse me, Liga MX Femenil is only 6 years old. And in Mexico, they're really trying to attract more fans to these games because the competition is top notch, right? Tigres especially is winning all of these games, dominating the play in everything that they're doing. And so they want to make sure they're growing the game, getting the word out there about everything that's happening in Mexico and why it's so fantastic. So this partnership between Tigres and Bayern, it was announced in December of 2022. And this match that happened last Saturday, in which Tigres won, they defeated Bayern. I love that you said that. We got to repeat it. This was kind of the kickoff of the partnership, which is going to continue to snowball into more and more different opportunities to grow the game. I think every year, it also announced in the partnership between them, every year Tigres is going to send 3 players and coaches to Bayern Munich to train at the campus alongside the women's team, which is very, very cool to see, kind of that cross promotion and that cross branding between these two different clubs and how they're able to grow, because then you have Bayern fans starting to watch Tigres and starting to watch Liga MX Femenil, and that's how it works. It's this little bit of a snowball effect, but really exciting to see the start of this, and the fact that it's already moving, right? December, it's announced. January, we're getting our first game. Let's see what happens next as this continues to grow and flourish.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that you could hear from Bayern players sort of post match and uh sort of listening to them and sort of like the rationale behind trying to find like a good partner across like internationally in terms of like um meeting, like checking off all those boxes, like so many of the
Right.
really cool things that you just mentioned. And they were like, a really cool league with like really good players that we want to have that partnership with. It's Liga MX Femenil. And I love that because it is a young league and it is still a
Yeah.
growing league, but that's not to say that there hasn't been an amazing strides that have been made over the course of a short time in the short history for this league. And I just love like the scenes like within this game, like that's the other thing that's really really cool too. It's like you see a very iconic like club and brand like Bayern, and they're like, they're looking at the Tigres Femenil, and it's like as equals essentially. And they're just like, if we play these games in Mexico, there's going to be like a really good turnout. There's going to be lots of history that's made. You're going to see like really really good crowds getting into these crossing the turnstiles and getting into these seats to watch these two iconic clubs sort of just go head to head. And I loved it. I love that Tigres walked away with the win. I'm just like recounting it like back in my head right now, but it was Ovalle. They got the service on the goal and Uchenna that
Right.
knocked it away. And all my excitement of thinking about the game. That was like a thing that I did to like treat myself over the weekend. Like when we talk about like
Yes.
self-care and like things that you want to like do just for yourself, like just for fun. I was like, I'm just gonna like just watch this game. And maybe like we'll get to a point like things like these, that like partnerships like these are really important because you show the interest, and hopefully that leads to even more access to the game. And it's tough. It's just like, oh, it's like, you're watching these games like on your phone. It's like I would love to like try to like you know get that out on my screen. So yeah, you can, if you there's workarounds around it, right? If you've got like all the smart devices, and you can go ahead and do that.
Yep.
But love to see the numbers in the stands, love to see the numbers in terms of viewership like on these streams. You're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands. So I'm looking forward to seeing the continued partnership between these two teams moving forward. Internationally, more news, World Cup type of news. The official FIFA Women's World Cup ball has been released.
Ta-da!
Oceanus, Oceanizi. Listen, I'm trying to make sure that we're saying it correctly, but we've got a great image of the ball up here in our live. Check it out. I love the colors. I love the design. Of course, I love the World Cup logo on that. That's what
Totally.
we're going to see. So many great teams kicking around in New Zealand and
Yeah, it's
Australia.
very special to see, and FIFA did it in a fun way. They posed this little video out on their socials. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. We also did a little remix of it on Attacking Third, so go check it out. Of the ball kind of being carried by a helicopter over the skyline of Sydney in Australia, and then it gets placed at Marks Park, where it ends up being the FIFA Women's World Cup 2023 ball. It's inspired by the unique landscape of Australia and New Zealand, which is very cool to see. You can see it in like the blue and the yellow and the green on it. And also 1% of all net profits going to the Common Goal projects to drive gender equity in sport. It's a celebration of the cultures of both host countries. And it's done by a great artist. I'm going to try to say it. Shirini Sutton and Maori artist, Feoni Colas. The art is part of the brand identity for FIFA Women's World Cup, which is pretty cool. But it's a little special delivery in Sydney. That's how they dubbed it, coming from the Adidas helicopter. But I like it. I like the blue. I like the green. It looks like an ocean. It looks like a wave that they've got going on. It's just one more step closer to the World Cup, right? Like we're getting these tiny details, and that's what makes me so excited about everything that is to come for the 2023 Women's World Cup.